morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Creatives. Now, I know I say good morning, that's because I'm here in the UK, but if you're joining us from anywhere else in the world, good afternoon or good evening. We're part of the Creatives Group, a private networking group for creative professionals everywhere. We help to support you learn, grow and develop your creative business. I'm Melanie Perry and this is
Julie Hyde-Mew.
And who have we got on the couch today, Julie?
Right, so on the couch is Jim Woolfe. Jim, hello Jim. He is a music producer and a very unusual creative person in that he came into his creative brilliance later in life. He's a music producer, set up during COVID, during the lockdown, and he distributes his music on Tic Tok. So hello Jim and welcome to On the Couch.
Hi guys, thank you so much for inviting me. This is so lovely. Thank you.
Well, it's wonderful, creative people connecting with everybody else's networks. It's a wonderful concept. So let's kick off, Jim. Give us a brief history of your life before flowering, so to speak.
Okay, so my background's sales and marketing. I mean, when I left school with absolutely nothing, I didn't really get school. I think I was a bit of a daydreamer, to be honest. You know, all my stuff was in my head. And my dad, whose background was a professional banker, was like, well, you've got to get yourself a career. I didn't have a clue what I was going to do. And I fell into sales, really. I went to work, I ended up working in a warehouse as little Jimmy the warehouse boy. And then one day, this guy turned up in this suit and company car. And I said to my mate, well, what does he do? And I said, he's a salesman. I said, well, does he get, yeah, they gave him a car and he gets to wear a suit and he's finished at 1 o'clock every day. I thought, you know what, that's my job. That is totally my job. So I set about trying to get into sales, and I worked my way up through various means, and finally got my break. And from there, you know, I stayed in sales and sort of honed my skill, if you like. Ended up working for a major tobacco company as a sales manager, and with sort of a team underneath me, which was great and fine and dandy. And then basically what happened, I mean, it was in the tobacco industry. Tobacco industry was on its, you know, was declining, and there was really no need for salespeople. I mean, our job was building distribution. Well, the advertising was getting really quite tough. We weren't allowed to do stuff. So we got made redundant. And that really hurt me. It really hit me, you know, quite hard. And it was weird because at the time, as we were leading into this, you know, the job was starting to get a little bit, you know, I wasn't happy. And I'd had this sort of idea. I'd always wanted to be a musician. I'd always wanted to be in a band. But I think like most people, well, I couldn't play an instrument, so that was a drawback, I guess. But it was like, oh no, you can't do that. You got to get a job. You know, I'd got a career and a wife and kiddies and stuff like that. So, but about a year or so before I got made redundant, I had this idea, and this was at the time when the rave scene and the techno scene was coming in, and I had this idea. I wanted to be a techno DJ. So I got myself a sample. I got myself an Atari ST, and off I went and started playing underground gigs. And then the inevitable redundancy came. I was in a little bit of I don't know, it was in a bit of a weird spot, I guess. Wasn't sure what to do. I didn't really want to stay in sales, but my redundancy money ran out. Wendy sort of gave me a big kick up the backside and said, look, you need to get work. So I just went back into sales because it was the easiest thing I could do. But it weren't quite right. Something else I'd always wanted to do was run my own business. So I had this bright idea of setting up an internet company. This was back in the day before Google. And so it's something I really wanted to do. So off we went. We set up an internet company. And the problem was there was about 5 of us involved in it, and we had all sorts of issues, partnership issues. It was crazy. So I had about a year of that, and then it was actually making me quite ill. So I left that business, just basically walked away from it. And went back and worked in a warehouse again because I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I found myself working night shifts in Sainsbury's, doing the orders for the supermarkets and that. And you know, it was actually quite good fun. I mean, it got me to persuade me to do the team leader thing and the union rep as well. I mean, I was never ever going to do anything with any responsibility, but I just seemed to get sucked into it. But you know, I sort of knew it wasn't going to be for me forever. And then Wendy had this idea, my wife Wendy had this idea for setting up this business called, and it was a business that was designed to find work for mums, work that mums could actually do. And that's where the name Email Mum came from, and the concept of Email Mum. Basically, the idea was going to be, right, you want a bookkeeper? Email Mum, we'll find you one. You wanted this, you wanted that. And that was it. It was a really cool idea. We didn't know how to start it, so we thought we'll start in home cleaning because Wendy knew how to clean houses, and from my experiences with the first business, I knew that one of the most important things was to get cash. You had to get cash. You've got to survive. And we thought, right, that is something that we can do. And it sort of started from there and snowballed. And 18 years later, the business is still running as a domestic housekeeping company and doing well. So that's my professional background in a nutshell, really.
Is Wendy running the company?
Well, we sort of both do. I mean, it's an excellent company. I mean, it's a very easy business to run. So we've got a team of about 30 really high quality professional housekeepers. We're very much into empowerment. We're very much into the personal responsibility. So when we started Email Mum, we put our values at the heart of Email Mum, which is basically respect your staff, look after them, empower them, encourage them to take ownership and give them the confidence to do that. The end result of that is the business almost runs itself. You know, we probably put, I don't know, 5 hours, 10 hours a week into the business because the team is so good. They run it. You know, we've got a really good setup and we've got a very, very good established client base. You know, we're quite top end because we're not most people in the housekeeping business are agencies or private cleaners. We've gone down the route of managing the staff, giving them pensions. You know, so our cost of employment is quite high, and that's reflected in our fee. But we positioned it in a way where we attract clientele that understand that and understand that their housekeeper is getting proper employment. And one of the big advantages was when we went into the pandemic, of course, we could get furlough for all their staff. So we were able to protect their livelihood. Now in the housekeeping cleaning industry, there, you know, people weren't earning money, they were getting laid off with the agencies, and it was a complete nightmare. And if ever we were looking for I guess a sign that said we were doing it the right way, that was it, because we were able to, you know, protect our staff, maintain our team, and bounce back, you know, almost as we were. So yeah.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because obviously COVID would have hit a business like that very, very hard when you physically cannot go out and do what you were doing because it's a hands-on job, isn't it, housekeeping?
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank goodness you ran things the way you did for your staff, more significantly because they were on furlough, they had some money coming in. But because things kind of must have slowed down and got, I mean, nobody knew when it hit how long it would go on for. You know, I think that was quite a shock for everybody. So when did you start turning your thoughts to what else can I do? Can I use this time to dabble a bit more in my music?
No, it's a brilliant question. So, and funny enough, furlough's got so much to do with well, the fact we're actually talking now. So, what happened was when the pandemic hit, I was really concerned about the housekeeping business. I had a supplier, one of our clean suppliers, and they came up with this magic product. You sprayed it and it gave 30 days protection. You might have seen the London Underground using it in the Hamas suits and spraying trains and all that sort of stuff. And they basically approached us and they wanted us to become like an applicator for them, for their client base. Now, I jumped on that. I got myself a bounce back loan. I just went for it because I was really concerned with what was going to happen with our business. It was a complete and utter disaster. It really didn't work. I mean, there were reasons why it didn't work for us. I won't go into them now, but you know, with a bit of thought and a little bit of due diligence, I would have seen that I would have jumped. But I jumped and you know, and got my fingers burnt a bit. But one of the really good things that came out of that was LinkedIn, because the sales director of the company suggested I go on LinkedIn because he said, "Oh, you'll be able to get loads of, you know, people that want this spray. Well, so I went onto LinkedIn and did what everyone says you shouldn't do, and no, you shouldn't do this, kids. Oh, let's go on, get connections, send DMs, want to buy my stuff, want to buy my stuff. Well, you know, complete tumbleweed. And then it was like, oh, this is a strange place. But there was something about the platform that was interesting me. I've not really been a social media guy because I didn't need to market or advertise a business. We had an established clientele. You know, we spent about $2,000 on marketing in the last 17 years because I understood SEO and I was able to get good SEO ranking on Google, and that's what brought our business in. So we, you know, I'm looking at this social media, and there's people doing business. This is interesting, and video really caught my eye. I thought, oh, this is really good, and I've been dabbling around making video for quite a while. And I've been doing it for our business, just playing around with it for my music, and I came up with this idea to do these like little social sizzle reels, little 20-second videos, you know, promotional videos of companies. I thought, oh, that's good. Why don't I go and do that? This is me all over, by the way, guys. You know, I come up with an idea. I think, right, bang, let's do it. You know, I don't really think things through, which is sometimes not a good thing to do. So anyway, off I went, launched 5 Notes Media with a business partner of mine who's a really talented guy. But again, not really knowing what to do with it and where to do it. And not only that, I'd come onto LinkedIn, and the strange thing about LinkedIn is when you first are on the platform and you haven't got a developed feed, you get a perception of LinkedIn that is completely and utterly different to what it actually is. On my feed, I was just getting adverts coming in from companies from this, that, and the other. Now my feed's completely different because I've got a network and we interact. And the product that I've designed, although had some and has got some legs, and I've done a bit of work with people, it wasn't how can I put this? It wasn't absolutely the correct solution I thought it was. Yeah. So, but I had a conversation with a guy called Tim Hughes, who's a social selling guy, and he gave me 40 minutes mentoring. And that absolutely completely changed how I look at LinkedIn. And he said to me, you got to be yourself. Just be yourself, you know, and just talk about it and just don't force it. And I'm like, oh, weird. You know, my background in business, you know, has always been, particularly in sales, you have a certain persona, you have a certain way of, you know, interacting with people. All of a sudden, go onto a business platform and be completely yourself. And myself is what everyone's seeing now, this crazy nutty bloke. So I started thinking, well, what sort of stuff am I going to do? And one day I posted a track of music. I mean, I've been making this music for 20 years and it's on SoundCloud and I've got a bit on, I don't know, Spotify and all of that. But, you know, it's more of a bit of fun than anything else. I posted a track on LinkedIn and I got some, to my surprise, I got some reaction. And then from there, I started posting a few more. And then things started, you know, click in my head, and it was like, right, okay, so people are making content and they want music for it, and hang on a minute, and I'm one of the few people that's making music on LinkedIn because it's you know, in my normal universe, SoundCloud and that, I'm one of millions, but on LinkedIn there aren't many of us, and I'm like, oh, I'm standing out a bit here, this is a bit interesting. So then of course we came up with the idea of the free music site, you know, because
that was genius.
Yeah, well, it was Mark's idea, my business partner, because he said to me one day, he said, you know what, Jim? He said, I think that LinkedIn is so much about giving back, and I think you should give your music. And I'm like, what? He said, no, hear me out. I think you should give your music. What you should do, because he knows I've got loads of music, like loads. I've been doing this stuff for 20 years. I've got hard drives full of it. He said, look, you could take some of it, you could repurpose it, and you could do it into these short little clips, and then people could use it for their videos, for their podcasts, for this, that, and the other. And the thing is, if you put it out there under Creative Commons, because the other massive issue at the moment is copyright. You know, so many people have got copyright strikes on Google, YouTube, places like that. And it was like, so you could give people like a safe place. They could come on, they could take the music. Many of them will be smaller business people, so don't charge them for it. Just give to, and it will really get your name out there. Well, it was a light bulb moment. It was a stroke of genius from Mark. So that's what we did. So from there, you know, we launched the free download site. It's done great. Melanie, you've used it a few times, and I mean, you know what? I don't care whether I don't make a penny out of it, because the feeling you get when you see a creator, when I mean, I had some wonderful stuff you know being made from it. You know, a guy called Martin Whiskin did a Buy My Stuff video. I mean, it's on a Claire Carrot. I mean, I could just go on and on.
Our theme tune. Our
And
theme tune,
I mean,
On the
and
Couch
that,
theme tune.
and that was actually really was an icing on the cake. You know, it was like, wow. And do you know what? That was the thing that led me down the path of the stuff I'm doing now, because then I thought to myself, because we, you know, originally that was going to be part of the free offering. And then you used it. And I was sitting there one day, I was thinking, you know what? But the problem is someone else could dive in and use that. And this should be their theme tune. This should be about, you know, the podcast. It should be exclusive. So then, of course, I reached out to you, Melanie, and said, you know, fancy doing a deal? And you said, yeah. And that was cool. And from there, I started to think, right, okay, my function is now twofold. Free music, yes, because there'll always be people that have got a tight budget that can't. But also, there are going to be people out there that are going to want something exclusive. So at the moment, I'm developing that idea. I'm looking at things like audio logos. I'm looking at podcast intro, outro music, all of that stuff. The plan being to offer a range of services that people can buy in. And yeah, you know, look, if you want the free stuff, then great, go and help yourselves. And I'll continue to try and support that as much as I can. It's limited what I can do there because obviously it's free. And I, you know, like I still got a bit of a living, but I'll also have the exclusive music. So if somebody wants to say, yeah, I don't really want anyone else using my, bit like you've got a brand. If you've got a brand for your company, yeah, you know, would you use someone else's brand to brand your company? You probably wouldn't, would you? No. So and I'm thinking along those lines, you know, and I think also that the thing with music is it is, I mean, it's powerful. I mean, and the big businesses have been using it for years. I mean, you think of Intel with the Intel inside, I mean, that's an audio logo and it's really powerful. You hear that, you think of Intel straight away. Now, back in the day, it wasn't really worth anyone other than a company that had a big advertising budget that could go on telly, go on radio, this, that, and other, to use an audio logo. But the game's changed, hasn't it? You know, we're all on social media. You can get your TikTok, you can get that, you can broadcast. We're all making videos on places like LinkedIn. So now I generally believe that there is a good case to be stated for exclusive music for well, I think for any brand.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So many people are putting so much on social media now. And as Melanie says, you know, we've got this creative group, private group for professional creative people, and we have our own logo music, thanks to you.
Yeah, exactly. And with the free stuff that you're giving away, Jim, you know, like for small business owners, what you'll find is they will dip into that when they first start and they'll build up that relationship with you and your company. And then when they can afford to pay for the more exclusive stuff, they'll go on that journey with you. So it's not just newbies that are coming in all the time. Absolutely. They will follow through because, you know me, Jim, I do a lot of animations and motion graphics and stuff like that. So for me, like audio, idents and audio, like the ping, ping, ping for a logo is really, really important. And you need to distinguish yourself from the crowd. So just being a talking head there isn't enough anymore. Absolutely. You need to add to that your own personal sound, your own personal, you know, because it's a multi sensual experience video, isn't it? It's what you see, it's what you hear, and it was what you feel. Absolutely. And I always talk about music, you know, people like adverts, you see adverts, I go on ads all the time to all of my clients. When you see adverts on the TV, you will not see, with the exception of maybe the odd charity advert, but you will not see a commercial without music.
Absolutely.
You won't, because the emotion that pulls you in, it plays on the senses.
Absolutely. I mean, I did something really interesting a while ago, and I mean, it's on my feed somewhere if people want to look at it. I did a video, yeah, and I did it in 2 bits. And the first bit I did, it was just me doing a bit of exercise, you know, it was just nuts me, wasn't it, yeah? But the first bit I did me doing the with no music whatsoever. And I just played it through. And then the next bit I put the music in. And the difference, I mean, it made the old boy look like he had a bit of energy, yeah? And I put that out there, and the point behind it was to sort of demonstrate, yeah. Now look, it's not always the right time and place to use music, but But the trick is knowing when to use it and how to use it. And again, you know, something that I'm hoping to do as I get more into the community. You know, I think my role within the community now is to be the voice of music, if you like, and to try and help people in the community to understand how to use it, to you know, to how to that sort of stuff. That's where I'm hoping to go with this long term.
Yeah, and I'm you know, thrilled and delighted to help you with that as well, Jim, because again, a lot of people say, oh, I can't have music because I'm talking. Well, you can, and that's where your ducking comes in.
Yeah,
just because you're talking doesn't mean to say you can't have a really subtle but powerful music track behind it to get that audience to do what you want them to do.
I was just going to say, man, I want to thank you on air, because you know what, you've been one of my champions, and you've been one of my champions from day one, and I'm really, really grateful for that. I mean, you know, I don't know, it just gives me the confidence, and it gives me the drive to just try and keep going with this, you know. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm delighted. And when you put, I mean, check out Jim Woolfe, please, and we've got all his details going across the bottom of the screen now. But do check him out, because one of his blogs that was really, really interesting and so important, and like something I bang on about again a lot, is copyright. You know, if you use someone like Jim, you're going to be safe. You know, and he talks about, and we'll talk about in a minute, Jim, your deals that you've done with TikTok, but repurposing Instagram reels on Facebook and stuff, and you can't do it. And I've had messages from people saying, oh, I've done this Instagram reel and it's silent on Facebook, and it's like, yeah, that's because it's not copyrighted for Facebook. You know, you can't take one platform and dump it on another one. Or and YouTube as well. YouTube is so hot with copyright on music. I mean, people get copyright all the time, and again, using someone like me who will use someone like you or other music libraries that I pay a lot of money for. You know, my clients, when they come to me for a video, they get the music licenses agreement, so that if YouTube does by chance say, oh, are you sure you can use that? They can got a license that says, yes, I can. Shut up, please, thank you.
So important, so important. And also, if I could add to that, I mean, LinkedIn at the moment, LinkedIn doesn't police copyright the way quite a lot of the other platforms do. But the message I'm trying to put out to the LinkedIn community is that could change. The reason why I don't think it polices as much is because video and sound is still growing on LinkedIn. But I think every indication is that is going to continue to grow. I mean, LinkedIn have just launched this carousel where they're combining video and I mean, that's brilliant. I hope they give that to me soon, because I'll be able to do so much of that. But the thing is, every sign is there. Now, as it grows, at the moment, the reason why I think LinkedIn's being left alone is because the copyright guys, you know, there's a lot of money in copyright protection, you know, and these big publishing houses protect it because it's their asset. Sooner or later, as this grows, they're going to start turning their attention to LinkedIn. Now, here's the thing, you know, we create content, and what we want is we want our content to be up there and stay up there. It's part of our digital footprint. If you've created content for your business and then all of a sudden a copyright guy comes in, they'll just take it down and then it no longer exists. So my message to people in the communities, create your content, particularly if it's business content. Look, if it's something where you're just doing a nuts TikTok video and you don't really care, so what? It doesn't matter. If it disappears, it disappears. But if it's part of your brand, if it's part of the investment that you're making in your business to create your profile, you don't want that disappearing in 3 to 4 years, do you? So
or a 20 or 30 or 40 grand fine.
Which absolutely is really a risk, and it can be a risk. There have been some horrendous examples on YouTube where they've gone after people, you know.
They don't care whether you're a small business or not. And the thing with copyright is ignorance is not an excuse in copyright law.
And the thing is, the key phrase you said there, Melanie, is if you're a business, because the copyright people treat businesses and people with business interests completely different to, you know, my 20-year-old daughter that just makes sort of selfie videos and uses Rihanna, because they know they're not going to get anything from her. You know, there's no gravy train. But a business is different. Every business has some form of asset there. So it makes perfect sense. If you're in the game to make money through litigation or whatever, it makes perfect sense to go after targets where you think you're going to get some money out of, doesn't it? I mean, that's what I'd do if I was a lawyer. This is exactly what I'd do. So well, there you go.
So tell us about your your forays into TikTok?
TikTok, oh, TikTok's nuts, right? So basically, streaming. You're probably aware of streaming, Spotify, Apple Tunes, all of that stuff, right? So TikTok launched a streaming platform called Sound On, and they launched it back in March. And I heard about it, and what they were saying was, you know, look, this is different. We're not going to take so much money out of you in terms of streaming. You're going to get 100% of royalties. It will change after a year, but to start with. But this is the thing that really, really attracted me to it. What we're also going to do, we're going to put your music and make it available on TikTok. So anyone making a video, if they find one of your tracks, they'll use your track, and you will get a royalty payment for that track. Now, for me, that was a huge game changer because TikTok is growing and growing and growing. And
so TikTok actually pays you the royalty.
Right. So this is how it works. So basically, that was a deal. So then I signed up to Sound On because I thought, you know what, I'm jumping on this. No doubt. I mean, I've got other streaming agreements with other companies, but I thought, right, I'm getting onto this. So basically, this is what happened. So I create a track. I upload a track onto Sound On, and then what they'll do is, and I have to do two things. I have to do a full track, and I have to do a minute section as well. I throw that up there, and then what happens? It passes through, and then it goes onto the TikTok music catalog. You still have to find it, yeah, and then that's it. And then from that point, if somebody uses that piece of music in creating a video, I get a payment. Now the payment's really small. It's something like 0.3 of a pence, something mad, yeah. But the thing is with streaming, and the thing is with this, it's all about playing a numbers game. Now all you need is to get a bit of viral action, and away you go. Now I'm still very new on it. I'm still building the catalogue, but something really interesting happened. I woke up, when was it, last Thursday, and because I'm getting a bit obsessed, I'm checking my TikTok every day. Who's using my videos? And in one day, I'd had 96 videos created just like that, and that's from a very, very small base of tracks. So I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I mean, look, I'm not going to get rich on it. I'm definitely not, because the numbers, you know, I'd have to be, I don't know, Coldplay.
Yeah.
But
how much did you earn from the 96 users?
About fragments.
3p.
About fragments. Honestly, you've got to look. Even on normal streaming, you have to stream a lot. I mean, if you're an established act, you know, your streams. I mean, you know, even what I'd call a mid-table act, you know, can stream 3 to 5 million on places like Spotify. I mean, you know, with smaller musicians, you know, people, and I mean, I'm not a known artist, am I? So I put myself down there. Now, a lot of people like me, they moan about the streaming thing. Oh, we're not making any money. We're not making money. Now, my answer to that is, yeah, but hang on, go back a few years when the only way you can make money from music was if you got a record deal, and the record companies were the gatekeepers. Now, it was exactly the same then. I actually think it's better now because small artists are more empowered. You can go on, you can get a streaming deal with anybody, but then you can get your act on sound, you know, on YouTube, on TikTok. You can build your brand digitally. And I actually think that for very small, you know, music producers and musicians, I think you've got more chance of success these days. But you know, the streaming thing, you know, if you expect to earn a lot of money out of streaming, and you're not an established act, then you're going to be disappointed.
Not realistic, isn't it?
You're not going to get the numbers. But then again, you know, if you think about it from a commercial, the trouble is with a lot of us musicians, we don't always think the commercial angle through correctly. But if you think the numbers, you know, how could a streaming platform pay somebody that's a very small artist loads and loads of money for about, I don't know, 400 plays? They just couldn't do it, could they? Wouldn't happen. So.
Well, can we listen to some of your music?
Well, you can go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, if you want, you got any? Yeah, should we play some?
Yeah, what should we play? What should we have a listen to, Jim? What's your favourite track?
Right. So I mean, the track that's, I guess, is closest to my heart is the track that I actually wrote 20 years ago, believe it or not, which is called The Crow. Now, I base that, and the thing is, I've never been able to release this because it's got an uncleared sample, because I took this sample from the film The Crow and basically built this gothic techno track around it. But when I used to play live, I used to go and play these dodgy underground clubs, And that was the track that used to really get everyone kicking, bang, you know, and it was great. And I've had it sort of on my hard drive, messing about for ages. But I'm going to release it because I found somebody, a lady called Kimberly, who's got a voice, I think, that we can use, and you do a little bit of repurposing, if you like, and put our own sort of version of the voice sample into the track. And then once I've done that, then I'll release it. But yeah, that's the one I think to kick off with. But you know, lock up your cats, kids. Honestly, it's scary.
Right, let's take a listen.
People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead.
So that was The Crow
Crow.
by Dr. Five Nose. And if you're looking on TikTok, I just want to say, are you on TikTok as Dr. Five? How will people find
Right.
you if they want to search for your music? Because I think we
So-
should plug that.
That's a really good question. So to try and search for me as my music, if you want to use my music, then you could. Right, I've got loads of names. Yeah. So Dr. Five Notes. If you type in Dr. Five Notes, tracks will come up. Type in Subservient. Yeah. If you want Nosebleed Techno, he's your boy. Type in. Oh no, Subservient does drum and bass. Yeah, right. Type Deadhead. Deadhead. He's the techno psytrance guy. Then you got Leslie J, who does sort of more, you know, handbag sort of EDM stuff. And then you got Fisher Green, who does the deep, meaningful ambient dancer. So I've got about 5 different personas floating around at the moment because I write music in lots of different styles. And a wise music man once told me that you need to categorize yourself with your musical styles, as everyone gets a bit confused. So I've always had lots of different personas, and that's what I'm doing on LinkedIn. I mean, look, my TikTok handle is, I've got 2. I've got Jimmy Five Notes. But the trouble with Jimmy Five Notes at the moment, he's got a bit political, you know. So if you don't want to listen to an old boy going on about political stuff, probably best leave him alone. And then I've got Scared Cat Music. Well, Scared Cat Music, I guess, is more my music site, and on there I put little videos up of me showing plugins that I'm using or my studio, and occasionally I'll do a little bit of a live stuff on it. Excuse me. Yeah, so Scared Cat Music's the one if you want to get more into music. Jimmy Five Notes if you want to, I don't know, start a revolution, I suppose.
And what about somebody like Melanie or me? We're doing a video and we want like a children's teddy bear's picnic theme or something a little bit romantic and dreamy. How do we find you?
The best way would be to go straight onto the free music download site, which you can find on the Five Notes Media website, which is currently being done, but it's there at the moment. There's a page that says the free music. Now on that site, there are about 400 free music clips. So that's the starting point. Now, but one thing I will say, because it's a free music resource and because I'm limited to what I can do with it, I'm hoping to address this over time, the variety could expand a bit, if I'm honest. Yeah, it really could. I mean, it's quite strong on dancey music and, you know, and crazy, because that's where most of my catalogue lies. There's not really anything classical. I need to do some stuff there, and there's little bits of dreamy stuff. There's a bit of light stuff, but not much. Yeah, I mean, it does need work on, but it's a starting point. But then what I'd say to anybody is, if you go on there and it's not what you're looking for, then it may be that you might have to give me some pennies because I can make something for you.
Yeah.
Price.
Yeah, absolutely. And then just have a chat with
Wow.
you and see how that can work out. But just keeping an eye on the time, because this is nearly an hour already, would you believe? I know. So I'm going to ask you, what are, for someone who has kind of changed direction, what would your top 3 tips be for someone that has perhaps, you know, had a corporate career or has been thinking about tapping into their creativity more over lockdown and is thinking of making a change into a more creative career? What would your top 3 tips for somebody like that be?
Good question. Right. Tip number 1, you need to start it off as what I call a side hustle. Don't go and chuck your job in and think you can reinvent yourself overnight. It is really hard. Well, it's hard in any business. Doesn't matter whether it's creative business, whatever business it is. To establish yourself and get an income that you can live on is tough. Now, one of the beauties about creative industry is you can do it as a side hustle and you can do it at night. What you've got to be prepared to do, you've got to be prepared to put the hours in. I mean, you know, even now, I mean, you know, I think nothing of working 60, 70 hours a week. I mean, I'm running a business, but I'm also doing my creative stuff. No, you know, but for me, that's what it takes. You've got to be prepared to really put the graft in. So start it off as a side hustle. I think number 2, before you, and maybe even before you do it, what you've got to understand is this: doing something creative for fun is completely different to doing it professionally. I've got a very, very close music producer friend who's worked with some very, very top guys. And I was at his studio once and he said something to me, and it's always stuck in my head. And this was before I started, you know, doing this stuff professionally. He said, "You know what, Jim? I envy you sometimes." Why is that, Pete? Because when you make music, you do it for fun. I'm making it for clients. He said, and I can never, ever, 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 you know, do the stuff that I want. And I thought that was a really, really, and that stuck with me. So I think if you're going to decide to do this, because once you start doing it for other people, then I mean, I have to do this a lot. You have to rein in your creativity a bit. You know, I've got wacky ideas, mate, but that might not always sit with what the client needs. And you've got to understand that. So the mindset is completely different. So ask yourself whether you can do that. And then number 3, I would say, just don't be worried. Come out of your comfort zone. One of the biggest problems we have as creatives is imposter syndrome. Oh, am I good at this? Can I do this? I mean, you know, 25 years I've been making this music. For 20 years, I had this sort of throwaway remark, you know, he's been making music in his bedroom for 20 years that nobody hears. And that was it. Now, some of that was because I thought, oh, actually, this ain't that good, you know, this, that, and the other. I mean, you know, I think you have to dive in and you have to put yourself out there. You don't worry what people think. You know, look, it might not be brilliant, but you know what? The more you do, the better you get. That's the thing with it. It really is so important.
You have to start somewhere, don't you?
You do, and I think you've got to throw your ego off. You've got to stop worrying about being judged. You've just got to do it, and you've got to do it because you love doing it, and just keep applying yourself to your craft. I mean, I set my new studio up last week, and I went back into my hard drive, and I found a couple of really old tracks, and I listened to them, and it was like, blimey, did I really mix those tracks? But what that illustrated was how far I'd come. And I honestly don't think I've made a jump over the last year or so. And I think I've made a jump because I put myself out there. Because in putting myself out there, it just, I don't know, it just honed me, it sharpened me up. It's the only way I can explain. So just go for it, guys, if you want to do it. But understand, you've got to have a game plan with this. You don't just chuck your job in. Because I'm telling you, it is not easy making a living, but it is doable. It's more than doable. Just got to have a plan. That's it.
I think that's really, really good piece of advice, Jim.
Thank you.
Now, you've seen our shows, Jim. It's my favourite bit. It's my favourite bit. It's my favourite bit. My cards. My cards are out. My cards are out. My lovely cards. I'm going to just shuffle and touch and touch and touch over here. No, okay, I'm back. I'm back in the room, Julie. So Julie's not thinking, oh my God, she's going mental. She's going mental, Melanie. Right. You can't get some of these cards, they're so soft.
I can understand somebody waxing lyrical over a teddy bear or a silk dressing gown, but a pack of cards?
I like them.
Yeah. Right, okay. So I'm going to spread them out now. I've shuffled them as far as they're going to shuffle, as far as I'm concerned. I can spread them out. Oh, gosh. There we go. Right. So I'm going to run my finger along. You just say stop, Jim, and I'll pick a card.
Stop.
Ooh, right. Okie dokie. We have got, what have we got? Ooh, It's quite a good one for our conversation. We have got, oops, where's my camera? There's adaptability.
Ah, well, you certainly need that, don't you? If you're changing your life path from corporate to creative, like you do, Jim, or
That
you
is-
have.
That's spooky.
A
It's
lot of these have been
very spooky.
spooky with our guests, haven't they? It's kind of like, you know,
so spooky. And you know, and yeah, it is. It is such an important thing. And you know, I think it's even more important today because I was talking to someone earlier on about careers. When I first started in my career, it was always job for life, wasn't it? But the world changes, and it changes so rapidly, and it continues. And I think adaptability is a massively important skill that everyone could actually do with having, because you just can't sit in your comfort zone anymore. You just can't. You've got to come out of it, and you've got to be prepared to adapt. And sometimes that may be adapting and doing stuff you don't really want to do. And I've done that. I really have. But the really, one of the big life lessons I've learned is I've gone out and done stuff I didn't really want to do, but it's led to something that actually I did want to do. So, you know.
yeah, I think that's true. I mean, and today, as you say, in today's fast-paced world, you can't stand still. You can't be inflexible. You can't, because you don't know what the world's going to throw at you. I mean, you know, say 2 years ago, who would have thought we'd have been in a position where practically the entire world was going to shut down?
Absolutely.
And push, the world shut down, and yes, there were obviously very tragic and negative aspects of the lockdown, but also positive and creative aspects, because so many people sat and stared at the wall and thought, what do I do now? And the brain just exploded. And I know plenty of people who reacted to the lockdown by becoming extremely creative, and you're obviously one of those too.
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of worked for me. I mean, it really did. You know, it really did. It really did. So it's good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
I do. I agree. I agree. And you know, I think one of the questions on the cards is, you know, how could more adaptability improve the world? But I think we've seen that in lockdown, haven't we? I mean, we have seen that people have been forced to adapt. And actually, it's shown us that as human beings, we're actually quite good at adapting when our back's against the wall. You know, any person who's been in that situation where they've kind of been teetering on the edge of a precipice and they've had to turn their life around, or something really unexpected or awful has happened, you know, we do cope with things surprisingly well if we make our minds up that we are going to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. I really do with that.
Well, we wish you well in the future, Jim, because obviously you're just going to grow and grow and grow, and that's one.
Well, I'm getting a bit old, aren't I? Really? I mean, you know. So, but that's then what's really amazing. I mean, I find myself now, you know, with I guess a second lease of life when it comes to work. You know, I was, you know, what, a year or 2 years ago. Because the family business has been running well for quite a while, and I mean, I've been making my music but doing it for fun. I mean, now, I mean, I'm just working like nuts at the moment, just making this stuff, trying to make this stuff happen. It's great fun. It's great fun.
Good.
You know,
that's the best when you make a living or you have a lifestyle surrounded by fun, and you have obviously a love and a passion for something.
Absolutely. But one final thing I do want to add, though, and I think this is quite important. Look, but, you know, having said all that, it's great. But look, for me, it's easy, isn't it? I mean, I have a successful business. You know, that supports me. I've got food coming in on the table, so it's great for me to, you know, feed my ego a bit and come and do a little bit of this sort of stuff. It's fantastic. I can do it. You know. But you know, it's hard. It is hard for a lot of people to do that, and I'd hate anyone to watch this and think, oh yeah, you know, he just sounds, you know, I am in a very privileged position. Okay, I've had to work very hard to get there. I had to establish a business to be able to give me the springboard to do this, but I am in a very privileged position. So, you know, I can go on this journey, can't I? You know, without any real fear.
It's a journey that many creative people will go along with you as a member of the creative community. If anybody out there wants to become a member, just email Melanie or me, connect with us, connect with people like Jim, connect with their networks, and also supporting and encouraging people, you'll get the same encouragement and support from other creative people.
Yeah.
Can we listen to another piece of your music playing us out, Jim?
Just to play us out, yeah, what would you like to play?
Right, the one I'd really like to choose is a track called Kimberly's Words. And the reason I'd like to choose that, because that came about as LinkedIn. LinkedIn was a power. So I connected with Kimberly. Kimberly's a poet and an artist. She's got this amazing voice. I don't know if you're aware of the track by The Orb called Little Fluffy Clouds with Ricky Lee Jones. What were the skies like when you're at that song? I've been searching for my Orb voice for years. And Kimberly sent me some voice recordings one day. I thought, hang on a minute. And I stuck it through a delay, and it was this wonderful little bit of poetry. And then that track built from Kimberly's voice, hence the reason Kimberly's Words. And then I put a little bit of art. Well, the art is Kimberly's art. She sort of did a bit of art to it, put it out there, and it's done really well on SoundCloud. It's got a hell of a lot of plays on SoundCloud, and I just think it's lovely. I love what it symbolises. This whole collaboration thing. Yeah. Two creatives collaborating, we didn't make any money at it. Who cares? We just put it out there because, that's creativity. So yeah, if you could play us out with that, that would be wicked, guys. And thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been a blast. Sorry I've gone on a bit, but
it's been delightful. We've thoroughly enjoyed ourselves, haven't we, Julie? Okay, so to play us out, it's Kimberly's Words.
One foot apart, wireless connection. Texted voices clamoring to compete. Drained by all the digital subjection. I wonder, is real life now obsolete?